The Phoenix Suns make a trade to sort of mortgage some of their future. Should Dallas be trying to do the same? And should they chase a third star to pair with Luka and Kyrie? Coming up on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Amazing.
Your team every day.
You locked on the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Isaac. I'm one of your co-hosts. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen of the day. Go make Locked On NBA your second listen of the day. If you're a true Mavs fan, you already signed up for our Locked On Mavs Subtext Insider program where you get texts and stuff sent straight to your phone all the time. All the latest Mavs news. Maybe you're not on X anymore and you're like, hey, I'm on X. I'm staying on X, guys. Yeah, you want news about the Mavs another way, then sign up for our subtext. This is how we send all of it out as soon as it hits. And you know it, you've heard it, our newsletter. We have a free newsletter. Gets sent to your email inboxes every single day. It's just one email, and it's free. You get all the latest Mavs news. Send right to you. You can sign up daily at lockedondaily.com. Today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Guys, here we are. We got a game tonight on a Wednesday night, and we're just going to forget about the game the other day. The game on Monday that was early in the morning, if you live in Dallas. I say it was early in the morning, but it was way earlier than typically for a Mavs game, and that was tough. Tough loss for the Mavs in that one. Go listen to the post game if you want to still hear about that game with Nick and Slightly. But today I want to talk about what Phoenix is trying to do, and let's think about it from a Dallas perspective. I want to think about what Phoenix is doing with their draft picks, what Phoenix is trying to do roster construction wise, and honestly, as weird as it's going to be, try to have a conversation with you, the listener, on like what you would do. Full transparency, this was me doing the pod tonight solo. Wasn't planned. So I'm kind of winging it right now. I have a rough outline and a plan, but we're just going to kind of talk about this Phoenix thing and talk with how it can affect Dallas. Not really affect Dallas, but can Dallas do a similar thing? So one of the things I'm fascinated with is Phoenix tried to do the third star thing, right? Like they brought in Bradley Beal. They kind of got him for free, which, I mean, if you're Brad Beal and you have a contract like that, good luck finding a ton of takers. And, so Phoenix goes out and gets him, and it's kind of like a weird reaction among NBA fans because it's like, all right, well, wow. Some people who haven't been watching Brad Beal play in Washington were like, dude, big three. This is crazy. It's like, what, really? Is Brad Beal that good still? Was he ever good? No, he was good. He was good. I'm just kidding. But they get him, and it's like, does this work? Like they've had a ton of injuries, him, Booker, KD, this big three, and then we see the effects it has on the rest of the roster. So now they kind of like want to redo it. They have like a new shot at it, and they're like, all right, we think we can take the Bradley Beal spot that really hasn't worked out and swap him for Jimmy Butler and then form a new big three and try this again. Now, some of this is, as Bill Simmons loves to call it, new owner syndrome, and the Matt Ishbia, yes, he wants to spend money. He wants to be good. He wants to do whatever it takes to win an NBA title. So trying to trade for Jimmy Butler. I've been pretty adamant that I thought Jimmy was going to be landing in Phoenix this whole time. And as the reports and all the stuff flies around, let's say they do land him and he lands in Phoenix. Let's say, I think somebody reported, might have been Mark Spears who reported, sorry if I got that wrong, that Brad Beal would be open to waiving the no trade clause to go to Milwaukee. If he does that, then if Milwaukee, they'll have to trade Pat Connaughton first to open up to get underneath the second apron. So that could be the next domino to fall that we hear. We see a Shams breaking news thing. It's like Milwaukee trades Pat Connaughton and some picks or something or a Beauchamp to Detroit and to go in his cap space. Well, then they can aggregate salaries, and then that's when the Middleton, Bobby Portis, whatever it is. If they get Brad Beal, then they're kind of committing to like a big three too, right? Like again, kind of like Phoenix, and so they'll have Giannis, and then they'll have Dame, and then they'll have Brad Beal on these like huge, massive numbers to form a big three. Whether you think Brad Beal is good enough to be called big three or not. So then now all of a sudden we've been having this conversation. It feels like across the NBA landscape for a few years now of like, man, the big threes are gone. Because especially with salary caps and all this, the salary cap changes and stuff. Well, now if this trade does happen, some iteration of that happens, now you're going to see two teams in Phoenix and Milwaukee forming a big three again. And I guess this is my question to you, Mavs fans. Should Dallas be looking to try to do the same? You have, and I'm not trying to say it's the exact same thing, but you look at what Phoenix is doing. They have a younger star in Devin Booker, even though Luka's better than Devin Booker. You have the sidekick who has more experience, who has titles, that's in his 30s, in Kevin Durant. And obviously Dallas has Kyrie Irving. Now, Booker and KD, a little bit older, right? Both that duo is a little bit further along than what a Kyrie and a Luka is. But still, you kind of see the same concept of when they're looking at it saying, what's the third piece that we could add with these two guys? Should Dallas be doing the same? Should Dallas, and I know some of you are like, man, it just kind of depends on the guy, right? And that really is the right answer. It's not like a cliche thing to say that, but what is the right move for Dallas? Do you continue building with all the different pieces around Luka and Kyrie? Or if a third star becomes available and you have the pieces, do you go get them and say, all right, we could put these three players together and then we'll figure out the rest? Nico's taken big swings before, right? I mean, this is the KP trade, the Kyrie Irving trade. I'm really curious to know what his big three, big two thoughts are. Is it a duo thing? And I feel like he's talked about this before, but I could be wrong. And I guess that's the thing. It's like, well, who are their names? I mean, it's really hard to try to predict who are the next names to be asking out. As far as you start looking across the board, well, what would consider a big three? And I just went to Hoops Hype and I was like, all right, let's just look at the biggest salaries in the league, and then you start just going down through the list, right? And start marking people off, and you look at the top player in the league right now, makes the most money, Steph Curry. All right, mark him off. Jokic, mark him off. Joel Embiid. Is this the next guy that asked out that Dallas says, hey, we'll take a swing on it? How would you feel? I feel like I know exactly what you are saying in the chat, but how would you feel if it is the summer and it's like Joel Embiid, Phoenix is shopping Joel Embiid, and Dallas is connected to him, and Dallas sitting there saying, you know what? We have a Luka Doncic max extension on the table. Kyrie's on board to sign a new 3-year deal after he opts out his player option, and we have the pieces. Philly's ready to do this. We can trade for a Joel Embiid. Would you want it? I think that's I feel like most Mavs fans, if you're listening to this and you're hearing dude, I feel like a lot of Mavs fans are saying no, stay away because of the injuries and the aura of everything this year and the vibes, Philly vibes, and all the different stuff. I feel like there's a lot of people that would say no, because if you're going to trade for Joel Embiid, you're probably going to have to trade Derek Lively. And it's like, would you trade Derek Lively for Joel Embiid? And it's like, but maybe there's a few of you in the chat that's saying you got to do it, because if you could pair those three guys together, then it's the best big three in the league, type of thing. And now we know Embiid hasn't asked out, all different stuff. I'm just trying to go down through the list saying, all right, who's reasonable? Kevin Durant. Well, maybe if Phoenix like blows it up, but if like they get Jimmy, no, he's just going to re-sign a new deal. Brad Beal, Jaylen Brown committed. Towns, he's in New York. Booker, same thing in Phoenix. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, what do they do in LA? It just feels like they're like committed to that new arena, Ballmer, and all the stuff. You've kind of like been there, done that with Kawhi so far, so you might as well just like stay in that right now. You could just keep on going down the list, right? It's like Jimmy Butler, no, Dame, Giannis. I mean, dream scenario, Giannis, LeBron, Rudy Gobert, nope. Anthony Davis, does LA do? So it's like, who is the third star? It's so hard to predict who that could be outside of, as far as like top salaries there in the league. Outside of like a Joel Embiid, you could kind of see the path for that. Let's take a quick break, and I want to come back and I want to mention, just throw a few names out there that it's like, oh, okay, you can kind of see the path. And I want to talk about this draft pick that Dallas owns and how they could do what Phoenix just did.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
This podcast is brought to you by our friends, our longtime friends at Game Time. Guys, Game Time is, I mean, watching a game at home, hey, it's fun, but nothing beats going to a live event, and Game Time is here to help you get tickets. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste the time searching through thousands of tickets. And here is my favorite thing about Game Time is there's this feature called all-in pricing. And you could toggle in the all-in pricing, toggle that in, and you won't be surprised by any fees at the end. I hate checking out, buying tickets to something, and then there's like all these different fees. I'm like, what are these fees even going to? You could do the all-in pricing. You're not surprised at the very end. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? Game time.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Insert music back into show. All right, here we are. All right, we're talking the Mavs should trade for a third star. If they should mortgage some of their future and all of that. This is what I do have a firm opinion on. I don't think you go swinging now for the third star. I think you ride this out with the team. I've been pretty clear that I think I really like this roster. Yes, there are some trades out there that if like a Herb Jones becomes available, you go get Herb Jones. But as far as like a third star, really like taking a swing on a bit like a roster consolidation, that I don't know. I'm kind of about this roster when Luka and Kyrie's healthy, and think we should just like kind of roll with that. But the question is, when it comes to like this summer, should they be looking to do what Phoenix is trying to do and adding Jimmy Butler to Booker and KD? So like, who's the next name, right? You start going down through all the different salaries. I did that a little bit ago, and it's like, all right, well, what's the pathways, right? Is it Markkanen in Utah? As Utah, I'll talk about them in just a second. They kind of make this trade to get this, this pick and stuff, but they got all these young guys. At some point, they're going to offload Markkanen. We thought it was going to be this, this past before he signed the extension and stuff. But is it Markkanen? Is Markkanen like a third star type of guy that you give up a bunch of assets for? Is it Zion? Like, do you take the swing on like a Zion and say, dude, when you're right, playing with Luka would be so much fun and all the stuff. There's a lot of risk there. Once again, it's so hard to find Embiid. If Phoenix doesn't get Jimmy, is it I don't know. And then what happens with Draymond and Golden State? Would you still consider him a third star at that point? I know Slightly's gonna love this one, but like Sabonis, these are names. I'm not saying that you would go out and get them. I'm just looking at guys who have been all-stars before, or would be considered like the definitive third guy that you're like, oh, okay, I can see them getting traded sometime over the next 6 to 8 months. It's just hard to find who that next person is. And should Dallas go out and get them? I lean towards no. I lean more towards having the duo and then doing what they're doing now. So I'm kind of stepping back and looking at the Phoenix situation, being like, all right, go for it. Like, you've tried this before, and then you try to find pieces, but like, sure, go for it. Put your big three together. Let's see it. We'll see what happens. Does it actually result in anything? And kind of the same in like Milwaukee. I like Giannis a lot, but like, if they do get Brad Beal, it's like, all right, Brad Beal with Damian Lillard. And I don't know. Maybe just me, but I feel like some of you might agree that you kind of just ride this thing out and not go for the third star at some point. But should they do what Phoenix just did? So Dallas owns their future first 2031. You look at what Phoenix just did, and they made this trade yesterday with the Utah Jazz to where they had one draft pick to trade, this one valuable draft pick, and it clearly just wasn't enough to do what they're trying to do before the deadline. So they call up Utah and say, hey, Utah, you have a ton of first round picks. We would love to give you this really valuable asset that's a long time down the road, 2031. And in return, can you give us like 3 first round picks that maybe not as good, but they're earlier? So Phoenix trades that 2031 unprotected first round pick. That's a nice draft pick to own. Can you imagine what the Phoenix Suns will look like 6 years from now? They traded to Utah for 2025 least favorable first round pick between Cleveland, Minnesota, or Utah. That's protected. 2027 least favorable first round pick, Cleveland, Minnesota, or Utah. 2029 least favorable first round pick, Cleveland, Minnesota, or protected Utah. Once again, a lot of these first round picks, they're not going to be top 10 draft picks, but they're still first round picks, right? So if you're going out to get like a Jimmy Butler or something, it sounds a lot better if you have these, you have 3 first round picks now. Should Dallas be trying to do that? I think it was Tim McMahon who tweeted out saying that OKC was in on a similar type of deal, or they were at least in on this conversation of looking at how many first round picks they have. Could they consolidate it to do a similar deal like this, Utah? And it was funny when this deal happens. I think I had tweets in my time and I was like, why would Utah ever do this? Then I saw another tweet in my time and I was like, dude, Phoenix geniuses. Now they can go out and get Jimmy and something else. And it's like the different opinions on this. So it's like, what would you mortgage the future for draft picks that are earlier, or more draft picks that helps you do things now? So you look at Dallas, and once again, it's impossible to figure out what's going to be going on in Dallas in 2031. Kyrie is going to be 37. Luka is going to be 31. If we're talking about in 2031. If Luka signs his like massive max extension this offseason, you're looking at Luka, and I'm pretty sure I calculated it right, to where he would be, it would be the draft in 2031 would be right after the 5th year of that extension, which, once again, the 5th year in extension or something like that is typically a player option. It's not just a straight up, 5-year deal. There's, could be extension stuff and all that stuff. So it's like, what happens in 2031? It's hard to, you have no clue, right? How valuable? I think this is a question too. How valuable is that 2031 Mavs first round pick unprotected across the league? Is it the same as Phoenix? No, I don't think it's that. But I also don't think it's like the same. I also don't think you look at it and say, oh no, who cares? Like, that has no value. I think it does have value. What if there's a team across the league, and I get Mavs fans, close your eyes. What would that do for a podcast? Because it's audio. I'm so stupid. I know. What if you're a Mavs fan? Don't listen to this. But if you're a GM across the league and you're looking at Dallas' situation and you're like, dude, I think Luka's going to leave there at some point. I think he's going to, force his way out or whatever it is and go to a different location, bigger city, whatever it is, however you want to describe it. And then they look at it and they're like, dude, Kyrie's 31. what 31, 32. Okay, he's gonna be around 37. Is he still gonna be playing then? What level is he gonna be at? Are they gonna, be able to land somebody else on their team before then? All the different stuff. So are you looking at it and saying, dude, Dallas could be like, it could be in a tough spot. Like, if they're looking at it saying like, hey, Luka, what if Luka asks out in 2 years? And then, Kyrie, well, it's like, is Kyrie going to stay there? And then you're looking at like a rebuilding Mavs team that's going on 2031, that this unprotected first is going to another team. It could hold a lot of value. So that's why I'm looking at it. It's like, do you call an OKC right now and say, hey, can we just do what Phoenix just did with Utah? Do you want to do that? Do you hold on to it? Do you hold on to it until you get the Luka max extension this summer, and then you shop that pick, which wouldn't have as much value then? Yeah, it's just impossible. It's impossible to know who the next third star is. It's impossible to know what Dallas is going to look like in 2031. But I think the question is, do you look at what Phoenix is doing and say, should we do that? And I want to lean towards no. I like, as much as I'm all in for like win now type of moves, because I think I think so many people just keep on pushing, the ball out in front of them and saying, all right, like, we'll look at this draft, look at this draft. And it's just like continuous cycle. And it's like, you never like go in and go all for it. I'm always a person that has so much respect for the middle tier team that takes a big swing to go all in, because I'm like, dude, go for it. You have to at some point. So if a win now trade comes up for Dallas, I totally get it. And I'd most likely be in favor of it. But I love what they're doing now at the roster and having all these guys around Luka and Kyrie. And I think that's still the route to go in the NBA, is you right now with all the restrictions and everything, that you secure your star duo, and then you spend the money spreading it out around the rest of the roster. That's the way I feel. But then again, Phoenix could change my whole mind if they get Jimmy and go on a big finals run and prove me wrong, and I look really stupid even more. Let's take a break, and then we'll be right back. I want to talk about West tiers if they do land Jimmy.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here. Shut it down! Let's go home!
Insert music again. All right. Let's talk about Jimmy Butler in Phoenix. If he lands in Phoenix. I know this is a little like preemptive here. But like I said at the beginning, I'm just kind of hitting record and rolling with this right now. So some of you are either hating the show because I'm just kind of like free talking on this and just like, I don't know, chilling with it. Or some of you are like, cool, vibes. Let's do this. All right. Let's talk about if Jimmy does land in Phoenix. Does it change much in the West? I don't know. Is it bad that I say no? I like Jimmy as a player. I've said it before, like if he made less money, I think Dallas should go get him and all that. But like $48 million, it's just impossible. I'm not giving up half my roster to go get him. I think it'd fit great in Dallas. All the different stuff. All right. But does it change a lot? Like, are you skyrocketing Phoenix up to OKC and like, hey Shea, you have a challenger in the West? I'm not really doing that. Yeah, just I mean, you obviously got to see how it plays out, but it's like, how do you judge them with that big three? Is he better than Brad Beal? Yes, he's better than Bradley Beal. Do we need to see what else they do with the roster? That Gambo, who covers the Suns, he's basically the best follow for Sun stuff. Talking about their the Nurkic stuff, and could they do the Jimmy deal and trade Nurkic with one of these assets too and pick up something else. Yeah, obviously if they do that and they get another piece with Jimmy, could change the thing. See what else they hold on to at the same time. Could change like where I put them in the West, but I'm like, is it like drastically higher? So let's look at the West tiers. I love doing tiers, and I didn't do as many tiers as I thought. But at the top, you got to have OKC, right? They're in a tier of their own. That's just where they're at. Arguably the best team in the league. Them or Cleveland, maybe Boston, as far as record wise, but OKC tier of their own. Underneath them, just looking at some like record wise and just how we're doing the regular season here. I have the Grizzlies and Rockets together as this like, hey, we're the young we're the young teams that have all these pieces. What does it look like in the playoffs type of thing? After that, I have the two teams that's like, hey, we've been there, done that with our core. We just got to get healthy and build some chemistry. That's where I have the Mavs and Nuggets together. Then after that, I have the Clippers and Suns if they land Jimmy. Am I crazy for not having the Suns higher on this list if they get Jimmy Butler? It feels like even just as I'm like talking about, I should just like raise them up the list. I've just watched some Suns basketball this year that just has not been enjoyable. And I haven't always walked away from those games saying, you know what? It's Brad Beal's fault. There's some weird coaching stuff. They have a lot of health stuff for sure. Missed, games for that. So I don't know. I should probably have them higher on the list, but have them with the Clippers there. Then I have this like massive tier of like Lakers, Kings, Warriors, Spurs, Wolves. Wolf. I don't know what to do with the Wolves right now. It's just like vibes. I mean, we get to see them play really soon here and against Dallas, but I just don't know what to make of them. I don't know what they're going to do the second half of the season. Do they make a trade? Do they try to find a taker for Julius Randle? I think they should be starting Naz Reid, but I don't know. And then obviously the bottoms, Blazers, Pelicans, Jazz. The race for Cooper Flag is on. Does it change much with the Mavs? If the Suns get Jimmy Butler, it definitely makes them better, especially if they get another piece. And it's just for Dallas, you're looking at it and saying the number one thing you're looking at for Dallas is like, yes, it would be great to have home court and to finish in a top 4 record in the West. But the thing you want to avoid is that dumb play-in tournament. So can you finish top 6? I think that's the only question you're asking right now for Dallas. We got to finish top 6. If you go down through the teams, OKC, Memphis, Houston, Dallas, Denver. That's 5 right there. Clippers, 6, Suns, 7. And then, I mean, that's 7 right there to where one of you guys are not making the playoffs. You're going to be in the play-in. And that's banking on one of those other teams not making a big run up, for it. Lakers, Kings, Warriors, Spurs, Wolves, which I know the Lakers have, decent record right now. But anyway, that's just where my head's at. I've expected Jimmy to land in Phoenix for a while. I just want to see all the different moving parts. That's the most intriguing thing about this, because I think the Connaughton thing has to fall first, and then we have to. It's a 4-team deal, is it a 5-team deal? Who gets in on this? Who's going to randomly get better as like the 4th team that gets a piece for like free, and then that piece like whatever. So is Dallas, hopping in here somehow? But we'll see. And as far as roster construction, I'm probably with a lot of you guys in saying, hey, I think we should stay the course, stay the course with and not chase the 3rd star and all of that. So there you go. There's a random podcast for today. There is a Mavs game on Wednesday night. There'll be a post game coming up from that. So make sure you do that. Subscribe to our newsletter. Keep us at number 1 in the NBA. All right. Keep us at number 1. We want to keep that top spot there. Guys, appreciate it. Don't be too mean in the comments. Be nice. Peace out. Bye. Peace out. Boom. Nick, you better be back tomorrow.